We're at the end of a 3-part series called Watch and Pray. You know, it's good to have fun in the house of the Lord. I learned this a long time ago. Sometimes I might be very somber and sober, and you might see a preacher and they're always very in the zone of the fear of the Lord, but it's also good to be in the joy of the Lord. I get kind of frustrated when I see preachers and it's almost like they have the same platform personality every time. Listen, I'm a person, I have emotions. God has joy. God, He gets angry. He grieves. So if we have a whole book called the Psalms, the book of Psalms, that goes up and down the human experience, I might make a wisecrack here and there. That doesn't mean that I'm watering anything down, and it doesn't mean that I'm a clown entertaining goats. Anyhow, the first message we did was Gachmanim, the Garden of Gethsemane. And it was about praying and being watchful towards external forces that would pressure us. Last week we did the parable of the 10 virgins. This week is called the Bridegroom at the Door. That's the message, the title of the message. The Bridegroom at the Door. So watch and pray. The first message was all about those things that would press us, and they would actually press us into the anointing of Messiah, into His anointing and into His outflow in our lives, and being watchful. Last week it was all about watching the skies for Messiah's arrival. This week is about watching in your spirit, the internal watch, the internal watch. When I was initially praying into this message, I didn't realize it was going to be 3 messages. It was in the middle of the week, and it was probably about 3 a.m. because it's usually, sometimes God will be very exact when He wakes me up. Sometimes He'll wake me up at exactly 3:33 all the time, on the dot. And when I was first a believer, I said, why are you waking me up at 3:33? He said, you're reading it wrong. I said, what do you mean? He said, it's 33:3. He said, it's right to left, like in Hebrew. And he said, it's Jeremiah 33:3. Call to me and I will answer you, and I'll show you great and mighty things that you know not. So let me explain this right at the get-go. Just because the Lord wakes me up early or very early in the morning or late at night, it doesn't make me better. It doesn't make me more special. It doesn't mean that I'm more spiritual. It just means that's an area that had a lot of time to cultivate in my life. We're not supposed to boast about our prayer lives or anything like that, but I'm speaking about this for your edification. So I woke up and it was 3 a.m. in the morning. Let me tell you how I woke up. This is how I woke up. I heard a knock just like that. And immediately my eyes were wide open in bed. And I sat there for about 10 seconds thinking, I know that wasn't at my front door. And I just sat there and I just laid there and I heard in my spirit, behold, I stand at the door and knock. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. And I knew I'm going to get up and pray. Well, I don't know what happened, but I dozed back off. I dozed back off and I had this dream. And in the dream, I was witnessing to somebody, and in the course of witnessing to them, there was this lamb in the dream, walked right up to my face and started licking me like a puppy dog. And I woke up, and I thought, hey, that's pretty funny, you know? Like, hey, whoa, I remember, oh, behold, I stand at the door and knock. I said, I got to go pray. I was a little tired, but I said, I'm going to go pray. And that was how the Lord brought this series of messages together. If you take this verse, behold, I stand at the door and knock. It's in Revelation. It's in Revelation 3, verse 20. I'm going to read it real quick before we get to the main passage. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come into him and will dine with him and he with me. And he's speaking to the lukewarm assembly of the Laodiceans. And he's telling him, I stand at the door and knock. I'm telling you to repent. And if you open the door, I'll come in and we'll have renewed fellowship. We'll dine together. When we look throughout Matthew 24 and 25, remember this is the Olivet Discourse, the whole discourse on the Mount of Olives. There are two times that the Lord references a door. He says one reference in the parable of the 10 virgins. He says that after the bridegroom has been seen, it says that the foolish virgins who didn't have oil, in verse 10, this is chapter 25 of Matthew, it says, while they were going off to buy, the bridegroom came, and those who were ready went in with him to the wedding feast, and the door was shut. Now later the other virgins came, saying, Lord, Lord, open up for us. And then he says, I never knew you. Depart from me, I never knew you. And then he references this idea of a door, referencing how close his coming is, how imminent his coming is. In Matthew 24, he says, learn the parable from the fig tree. Not the pig tree. What am I talking about? Edit that out, thank you. The pig tree. It's a kosher house here.
Hey.
Now learn the parable from the fig tree. The fig tree. Someone's going to call complaining. How dare you? When its branch becomes tender and puts forth leaves, you know that summer is near. So also when you see all these things coming, know that it is near at the door. What is near? Well, his coming. Messiah's coming. It's near. It's at the door. So I would like you to turn to the main passage today, and that is in Shir HaShirim, the Song of Songs. Song of Songs. You don't hear a lot of messages out of the Song of Songs. It's one of the books written by Solomon. Remember last week we were in Proverbs. Solomon wrote Proverbs. He also wrote Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes most likely was written at the end of his life when he repented. Song of Songs, not sure when it was written. Song of Songs chapter 5, verse 2 through 8. Some years back, I was in a process where I wasn't praying in a regular consistency because of the amount of school and work that I had. My wife, we just had our first child. So I was trying to juggle all these things, but I so much missed praying and fellowshipping, and it was kind of irregular. And sometimes I just have to find whatever time I could to go and seek the Lord. And so one night, the Lord woke me up, and I was really, really tired, and I was just laying down, and I just thought, there's no possible way I can get up, Father. I'm just really tired. And the Holy Spirit said to me, whoever seeks to lose his life for my sake will find it. But whoever seeks to save it will lose it. And he said, don't you know that even giving up that little bit of sleep that you want so bad, and I know you want it so bad, son. He said, don't you know what you will find when you come away with me and deny yourself? The cross is often not some massive big thing. It might be something as small as just waking up a little bit earlier just to seek the Lord. Song of Songs, chapter 5, verse 2 through 8. Who's there? You there, say amen.
Amen.
I sleep, but my heart is awake. A voice, my lover is knocking. Open to me, my sister, my darling, my dove, my perfect one, for my head is drenched with dew, my locks with dewdrops of the night. I've stripped off my robe. How can I put it on again? This is the woman speaking. I've washed my feet. How can I soil them? My lover extended his hand through the opening. My heart yearned for him. I rose to open up for my beloved. My hands dripped with myrrh. Yes, my fingers with flowing myrrh on the handles of the lock. I opened to my beloved. She's speaking. But my beloved had departed. He was gone. My soul went out to him when he spoke. I searched for him, but I did not find him. I called him, but he did not answer me. The guards making the rounds in the city found me. They beat me and they bruised me. It's very important to listen to the voice of the Lord when he's calling and when he's knocking on the door of our heart, because we just might miss him and it might open us up to some form of spiritual attack. Her beloved was at the door knocking, and she said, you know what, I got to get dressed, I got to put my clothes, I got to put everything back on. And by the time she got there, he was gone. Answer the call the moment you hear it. Answer the call. The guards making rounds in the city found me. They beat me, bruised me. The guards on the walls took my veil from me. Daughters of Jerusalem, I charge you, if you should find my beloved, what will you tell him? That I am sick from love. I'm going to talk a little bit about the structure of Song of Solomon for a little bit here. It was written by Solomon. Now here's an amazing thing. It's written from a woman's perspective. The woman speaking, the Shulamite is what she's called, she begins the book and she ends the book. This book is explicitly romantic, if you've never read it. Now, parents, you might want to educate your children in reading this whenever it's time. If you need marriage therapy, this is a great book to read with your spouse. With your spouse. It's explicitly romantic, and because of this, it led many of the rabbis in centuries past to question whether it was actually suitable to be placed in the Bible. This was the understanding. And part of the reason for that is because God's name is nowhere in the book. His name is nowhere in the book. There's another book where God's name is not explicitly mentioned. What is that? Esther. Right. With Esther, the difference is that Esther actually tells and gives us an idea of the historical narrative, and it adds to the historical narrative of the Jewish people. The Song of Solomon doesn't do that. It doesn't give a historical narrative of how it works within Jewish history. There's no reference to God's name. So there's no overarching narrative regarding biblical history. And yet, Rabbi Akiva, some of you know who Rabbi Akiva is? Great rabbi, the 2nd century. Rabbi Akiva called it the Kodesh Kedoshim. He called it the Holy of Holies. He called this book the Holy of Holies. The Holy of Holies. Why? Interesting. Interesting. It's the greatest of songs. It's understood. It is this great work of holiness, even though it's been the subject of scandal, debate, scrutiny, and yet there are many rabbis in the ancient rabbinic literature that say that one who understands this song will understand the entirety of the Torah. The entirety of the Torah. And they put it like this, is that if you have a pot of boiling water, you have to have a handle to pick it up. That's how some compare it. And yet, the accepted view of the rabbis in reading the Song of Solomon is that they will read it. It's to be read in Judaism allegorically. Now, let me explain allegory. Allegory is where you take an abstract idea and you put a symbol to it. Heard the story of the turtle and the hare, the turtle and the rabbit? Okay, that's an allegory. Those little children's fables, there's a moral lesson. Everything represents something. We talked about parables, mashal last week, a parable, of how a parable is not an allegory because everything in it is not symbolic because there's an application. And you would miss the application if everything was symbolic. The rabbis decided, hey, you know what, the best way to read this is allegorically. And so everything in Song of Solomon, if you were reading a traditional Jewish commentary on it, you would find that they equate everything in it to some type of symbol in order to give us some type of understanding of Jewish history. And so it's a very interesting way to read the book. And we find that this way of reading it allegorically or symbolically, it picks up really in the medieval ages. And the reason why it picks up to be read this way in the medieval period is because there's a lot of Christian persecution against Jews during the Crusades. And so they started to read it like this, allegorically, in order to strengthen Jewish faith, because of the way that they were being killed off and massacred. Now, we're not going to kick up, all this historical dirt and stuff like that and start, getting angry at the church or whatever. But there are problems with just reading it allegorically. So if we read it that way, we could see the exile of Israel, we could see the covenant given at Sinai compared to a wedding and all these types of things. But there are problems with reading it symbolically. Number one is that if you're a native speaker or reading it in Hebrew, a person who's naturally just grown up reading Hebrew would never read it allegorically. They would just read it to understand it plainly in the sense that it is. There are all kinds of problems no matter however which way you read it. If you read the book chronologically as a narrative, then there are problems with that. I'm not going to get into all of it. If you read it as some say, well, it's many poems together, it's many songs together. But then there are problems with reading it, as all these separate songs, because it's all put together as one. So there are problems there as well. When you read it as one book, then it's difficult, because it's like, what's the main plot here? Is there a plot? Well, what it boils down to is that the book is poetry. It's poetry. So poetry can be quite, it can have an element of symbolism. But the main thing with poetry is that poetry is really emotive, I'm going to read to you how it's traditionally read. I'm going to read to you verse 2 in chapter 1. This is the Rashi commentary, and this is the Art School translation. This is chapter 1, verse 2. Communicate your innermost wisdom to me again in loving closeness, for your friendship is dearer than all earthly delights. It's a nice translation. That's if you read it allegorically. If you compare that to how it's plainly translated, then we find this. Let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth, for your love is better than wine. I don't know about you, but which one's more romantic? The second one, right? Love is pretty reckless. Anybody here, unless you're a young person, anybody here ever done anything dumb for love? I'm the only one? Anybody ever done anything reckless for love? Love isn't systematic. I remember I had a crush on a girl one time, this is decades ago. I did the dumbest thing. I threw myself down a flight of stairs. That was me trying to fulfill the dream of a stuntman, I guess. I don't know. But I threw myself down a flight of stairs. It's just dumb things that people do for love. Love is reckless. It's not systematic. If you read the book allegorically, you gotta read it systematically. Because there has to be a methodology to understanding it. But if you just read it plainly, you're like, whoa, man, this is pretty hot here. Thighs like jewels and stuff like that. Woohoo! So if you read it allegorically, symbolically, then what happens is you lose a lot of the passion. You lose a lot of the emotion, and it's part of why it's read that way. Because if you're a young single Jewish man in yeshiva, and you're going to read this, you don't want to get some things stirred up in you as a young single man. That's why I say it's good. It's good if your marriage needs therapy. It's straightforward. If we just read it just the way it's written, as like this love song. It's a story of great passion between a woman and a man. And if you read it closely, there's a lot going on. You got all these characters, you know. When I read it, I'm thinking, this is like an opera or something, you know. There's got to be flowers all over the place, and my wife would really love that, and people dancing in dresses and stuff. And she took me into, what was that movie we saw, honey? And I was like, I wanted to hang myself. Les Miserables? Yeah, I was miserable, that's for sure. Singing the whole thing, I thought, all right, man, this opening song, they're done, they're going to get the movie on. No, the whole movie was singing! Yeah. The whole movie! I was like, can I go see Superman or something? I got to go and get a piece of myself back here. No offense to the actors, you did a fantastic job. This is a deeply passionate book. There are various scenes, various characters who add or take from what's going on. The bride, she comes across as the protagonist because there's another narrative running alongside the main one, if we read it that way. Many commentators, they struggle or debate how many storylines there actually are, how many characters there are, or if there is even a storyline. Remember, it's poetry. It's not meant to be systematic. There are aspects in Song of Solomon where you're reading it and you realize the woman, she's actually dreaming. She's actually imagining this romance, even though she's living it out. There are sections that we can read and we say, okay, you know what? She's actually dreaming. She's daydreaming about her beloved. There's the first aspect of the book is highly romantic. It's like the smooth honeymoon phase of a relationship. Chapters 2 through 4 and chapter 7. It's just smooth sailing. There's no tensions whatsoever in their relationship. They have no problems, and they get married in chapter 4. That's if you read it chronologically. The second aspect of the story is complicated, because you really see that there's a lot of drama in this relationship. If we look at the first chapter, in verse 5, I am dark but beautiful, daughters of Jerusalem. Like the tents of Kedar, like the curtains of Solomon. Do not gaze at me because I am dark, because the sun has looked on me, has tanned me. My mother's sons were angry with me and made me a keeper of their vineyards. My very own vineyard I have not kept. My very own vineyard I have not kept. So right at the beginning, we see there's some instability there with family relationships. Her father's never mentioned. Father's pretty important for a bride, but her father's never mentioned in the book. Her brothers are angry. They use her to keep their own vineyards. She doesn't even get to take care of her own. Her mother's just there in her life. Her brothers are antagonistic. They subject her to what? To manual physical labor. What do we find with her? She says, I'm dark but lovely. She's self-conscious of her looks. Can anybody relate to that? She's self-conscious of her appearance. She lacks self-confidence, and like most women, she acknowledges her own beauty, like a lot of people. I'm not just going to say that for women, because it's for a lot of people. She'll acknowledge her own beauty, but there's one part of her character, there's one part of her body that she's ashamed of. She says, I'm dark, don't look on me, because the sun has tanned me, but I'm lovely. Anybody feeling her self-consciousness, her self-awareness of what she looks at herself and say, I don't like this part of myself. Oh, I wish I was a little thinner. Oh, I wish I was like this. And I wish I could do this way. I wish I was this good like this person was. Anybody feeling that? Her appearance, her self-confidence suffer as a result of this thing that she looks at in herself. And throughout the book, she's put down by her brothers who have a sense of ownership over her. We find chapter 2, verse 15. We find it in chapter 8. We're going to read this verse here in chapter 8. This is what the brothers say. We have a little sister and she has no, how do I put this for children? No chest. What shall we do for our sister on the day when she will be spoken for? If she is a wall, we'll build upon her a battlement of silver, and if she be a door, we will enclose her with boards of cedar. Now this is her responding. I am a wall, and my chests are like towers. I don't think you got that. You got that? Okay, they're saying she doesn't have a chest, and she's saying, oh no, I got the goods. Remember, I'm keeping this child friendly here. So she answers in defense of herself. You see, often in our walk with God, what happens is we get insecure in His love because of how we view our own flaws in ourselves. And if I was going to tell you one thing today to make it as plain as day, I would say this. This message is all about being united with Messiah through His love. That's it. That's it. Plain and simple. Sometimes people get discouraged away from the Lord because they're too busy doing what? They're too busy looking at themselves, losing sight of Him. This woman was beautiful in her beloved's eyes, even though she was insecure in herself, but her security was supposed to be in the beloved, not in herself. And what happens is many times we make the mistake of approaching our own spiritual or moral attainment and perfection as the goal, when Yeshua in John 17 on the Mount of Olives prayed the greatest prayer ever recorded in the Bible. The greatest prayer ever recorded is John 17. And He doesn't speak about Aaron's individualistic attainment and holiness. No, He speaks about all of us together as a body. This is His high priestly prayer. He prayed for perfect relationship, that we would be one with Him and one with each other. The John 17:20, I pray not on behalf of these only, because He had just prayed for the disciples, but also for those who believe in Me through their message, that they all may be one, just as You, Father, are in Me, and I am in You. So you also may they be one in us, so the world may believe that You sent Me. The glory that You have given to Me, I have given to them, that they may be one just as we are one. I and them and You and Me, that they may be perfected in unity. Not Deborah perfect as a praise and worship leader, not me perfect as a preacher, not me perfect giving a perfect message. Oh, please. Who cares about a perfect message? There's got to be some pathos. There's got to be some passion behind it that carries the heart of God and incites your heart after Him. Yes. I'm reckless, man. When I was doing my undergrad, we had this praise and worship chapel one time, and I just started dancing around, and I had my eyes closed. I didn't realize that I knocked over a whole TV on top of somebody. People, my friends would be like, hey man, like cage it off, you know. Thank God for some maturity. Listen to me, beloved. Stop thinking that the world's going to be a perfect place once you get over your hang-up. Stop thinking the world's going to be perfect when you get over your hang-up. You got too many, there are many believers they stumble. Oh, I just fell. Oh, help me up, Lord. All right. Oh, I fell over that. I fell over it. Oh, I can't get rid of it. It's just there in the path. Oh, it's just like, come on, let's move. No, look at this. Look at this thing that's in my path. Look at this thing that's in my, come on, let's go. Let's move forward. No, let's go. You're standing up. Yes, I'm standing up, but look at this thing in my path. Get over it. Get moving. Some people, they get stuck on their hang-ups. They get hung up on their hang-ups. I'd hit a point like that where the Lord told me, stop looking at that thing and look at me. I'm trying to show you how to navigate around it so that you can get moving in your life. Maybe you got to be like Paul, where God's strength is working through your weakness and insecurity. You're thinking, well, maybe the world would be a better place if I was a better person. Yeah, maybe that's true. But you become a better person because His love for you is better than wine. You become better because you allow Him to love you. We love Him because He first loves us. That's the only security we're supposed to have in His eyes. I think I've said this before. There was one point after I transitioned out of Bat Zion to Gateway, and in that summer I was praying and I said, Lord, just take away all my insecurities. And He said, why would I do that? If I did that, then you would be secure in that area of your security. But I don't want you to be secure in the things of you. I want you to be secure in the things of me. So if I leave an area that you think is making you insecure, you're going to have to lean on me. That's the only security we're to have in His eyes. Perfect love casting out fear. Perfect relationship with Him. It's not our measure of perfection that we're seeking even in the first place. Well, God, I'll get along with what you told me to do, or I'll get going with what you've called me to once I get to this place. Such arrogance. It's what we've become in the body of Messiah. Well, if I just learn more, then I can reach Jewish people. If I just learn more Judaism, then I can reach Jewish people. Maybe some of those things are pertinent culturally for us to learn, but it doesn't mean we get hung up. Look at what happens, and let me backtrack a little bit. Do we need to be free? Yes, absolutely. I'm not saying that we're not supposed to be free. Not at all. But we get free because we're with Him. In the presence of the Lord, there is liberty. When we look at when she gets herself all fixed up, when she gets fully confident in herself, look what happens. I sleep, but my heart is awake. This is her speaking. A voice, my beloved is knocking. He says, open to me, my sister, my darling, my dove, my perfect one. This is Him speaking to His bride. For my head is drenched with dew, my locks with dewdrops of night. She says this, I've taken off my robe. How can I put it on again? I've washed my feet. How can I soil them? My beloved extended his hand through the opening. My heart yearned for him. I rose to open for my lover. My hands dripped with myrrh. Yes, my fingers with flowing myrrh on the handles of the lock. I opened to my lover, but my beloved had departed. He was gone. My soul went out to him when he spoke. I searched for him, but I did not find him. I called him, but he did not answer me. The guards making rounds in the city found me. They beat me and bruised me. The guards on the walls took my veil from me. Daughters of Jerusalem, if you should find my lover, what will you tell him? That I am lovesick. She got all comfortable in her own spirituality. She got all comfortable. You know what? I'm all clean. I'm not going to get my feet dirty. But she missed when the bridegroom came. I read this passage years back, and there was a realization in my heart that when God wakes me in the middle of the night, I got to get up. I got to respond, because there's a special blessing that he's initiating. And oftentimes what happens, just like I said, is we might be opening ourselves to a spiritual... God can see everything in the spirit realm. And sometimes I'm amazed at how the enemy knows that I'm going to get blessed, and he'll attack me right before I get blessed. I'm like, how did he know that? A friend of mine told me, well, it's because he lives in the spirit realm. You still got this. There will be times that the Lord will call you in the middle of the night to watch and pray with him. These are special times of intimacy. Silence, fellowship is different. And like I said, it doesn't make us better than anybody else, more spiritual or anything like that. Sometimes we can get so stuck on what our spiritual gifting is. If I could just develop my prayer life and I could be great at it and great at it, well, then you made an idol of your prayer life. When we read Revelation 3:20, Yeshua standing at the door knocking. For this woman in Song of Solomon, it meant the difference between having intimacy with her beloved, and it was the same thing for the Laodiceans. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If you open, then I'll come in and I'll dine with you. Intriguing thing was last week, I didn't spend a lot of time on this because I was going to do it this week. In the parable of the 10 virgins, the bride was absent. Right? You had the 5 wise, the 5 foolish virgins, and the bridegroom, but where was the bride? Why was the bride absent? I'm about to tell you. When we read the book of Revelation, it's all about what? It's all about the revelation of Yeshua the bridegroom at the door. We read that when he's revealed from the heavens in Revelation chapter 19, something happens later on in Revelation 19 and in chapter 21. When the bridegroom is revealed, what happens is the bride of Messiah is revealed. When we read the Song of Solomon, it's not so much about the revelation of the beloved. It's not. You have to, it's the bride who begins the book and who ends the book. Song of Solomon is more about the revelation of the bride than the bridegroom. I'll read you 3 verses from Song of Solomon. Chapter 3, verse 6. Who is she who is coming up from the wilderness like columns of smoke? And then it gives a description of Solomon. Some commentators ask the question, why is it asking about a woman, but then it answers in terms of Solomon? Because when the bridegroom is revealed, the bride's revealed. When the bridegroom is revealed, the bride's revealed. Chapter 6, verse 10. Who is she, Mizot, that appears like dawn? This is the beloved. This is the bridegroom speaking of his bride. As beautiful as the moon, bright as the sun, awesome as an army with banners. That's the bridegroom speaking of his bride. Chapter 8, verse 5. Mizot, who is she? Coming up from the wilderness, leaning on her lover. Under the apple tree I roused you. There your mother travailed with you. There she was, who was in labor, gave you birth. You see, all creation is awaiting the revelation of the sons and daughters of God. And that revelation will occur when he himself is revealed. How many times do we dismiss Yeshua knocking at the door of our heart because we're either comfortable in our own spirituality or because we're too lazy to go beyond it? Well, I finally reached the place that I want to be at with you, God. I've finally gotten to the plateau that I want to be at. I don't want to go any further. Some people, I get it. They don't want to have spiritual experiences. I kind of understand. I don't really understand. If I had to say, you know what, if we had to put this message into 3 points, if we had to do that, I would say this: don't get hung up on your hang-ups. Keep your eyes on Messiah, not on yourself. Number 2 is respond when he's knocking at the door of your heart. And number 3, the more unity there is with him, the more he's revealed in you. When the bridegroom is revealed, the bride is revealed. Last Sunday, because last Shabbat, I preached the message of the parable of 10 virgins. I was exhausted. My little one woke up at 2 in the morning, and I wound up staying up to just go and pray. I said, I'm just gonna stay up and pray. Sometimes the Lord will wake me up early in the morning, and I don't always wake up. Sometimes, there's grace too. It's not like oh, I wake up, I have all this energy. Sometimes I have energy when he wakes me up, and it's supernatural. I don't know how to describe it. I was so tired Saturday. I got done with everything. I think we had lunch with some of the visitors, some new visitors. And we got home. I finished everything up about 10 o'clock, and I was just so tired. I went to bed, and the last few weeks I've been having some thoughts about the marriage supper of the Lamb, the wedding banquet of Messiah with us, his bride. And there were some thoughts going through my mind that were like this. What happens if I get to the marriage supper of the Lamb and Yeshua doesn't, yeah, I know he loves me, but what if he doesn't want to sit next to me? Or what if he doesn't want to talk to me? Or what if there are other VIP ministers and people there that he wants to spend more time talking with? I mean, I go places that, you go to social functions and sometimes people don't want to talk to you, or they don't want to talk to you as much as, their favorite person. I'm having these thoughts in my mind. And so I go to bed that night, and I was meditating on the message from earlier that day, and I have this dream. And in this dream, I'm in this beautiful wedding reception that's completely pearl white. And I'm with my wife. And we're walking through, and there are people walking through, and it's a transition point into this other room that there's a kind of there's like a veiled golden curtain. Everything behind that was pure gold, and I knew the throne was back there. I don't know how I knew that. I just knew the throne is back there. And I'm thinking in the dream, when I get behind that veil, I know I'm going to meet Messiah face to face. I know I'm going to meet him, and I'm nervous, and I have anxiety. And I know that when we go behind there, that I'm not going to be with my wife. I know I have to meet him alone. And I'm going to go behind there, and he's probably going to be disappointed in me because of how much I messed up, and sometimes I'm loud a lot, and these things that go through your mind. And so we go through this veil, and I see him, but I only see the back of him. I didn't see his face. I only vaguely saw him from behind. And as we came in, all of a sudden, now this is the part where you're probably going to laugh. There's all these people. I know they're my brothers and sisters in the Lord. And all of a sudden, all of these beautiful blue sapphire balloons begin to fall from the ceiling or the sky, or whatever it was. And all of us did what most children will do with lots of balloons. We started playing with balloons. And in this dream, I'm having so much fun. I hear the Lord tell me, where's your anxiety and your nervousness? And I'm in the dream, I'm looking through my own heart and I'm thinking, man, I can't find it. Where is it? I thought I was going to be just super nervous and terrified to meet you. And man, this is so much fun. And he said, you'll never be able to find anxiety and nervousness with me because it can't dwell with me, but you can. And I woke up from this, immediately went off to go pray, and I kid you not, for about an hour and a half, I didn't even really pray. It was just laughing with Yeshua. That's all I could put it. I never experienced that kind of joy ever in my life. The most that I could muster was wow and praise God. That was it. And I told my wife later in the day, I said, you gotta hear this. And I'm telling her, she's just like, okay. I'm like, no, you don't understand. There's nothing in this world that you want. There's you don't want anything in this world. There's nothing in this world. All you want to do when you're with him is you just want to be with him. There's nothing that you can think of that you want to hold of in this world. All you're doing is when you're with him, it's just joy. It's just love. It's just purity. I don't know how to explain it. Somebody's probably writing a theological treatise on my dream and how unbiblical it was or whatever. In his presence, there's fullness of joy. At his right hand, there are pleasures of more. When he says that there's joy unspeakable, there really is. There really is. And look, I know that things look the way they look in this world, but there's something a whole lot better. There's something a whole lot better beyond this world. I don't know what we're trying. I came out of that dream and I was like, all right, let's go. Yeah. Let's go. He said, well, sometimes I'm very tired when I get home from work or whatever. Or sometimes to get up really early. Listen, I know it's hard, but there's always a price to pay for something good. I remember I told the Lord, it's really hard. He said, if I make it easy, you won't realize the blessing. You won't understand the blessing, the weight of it, if I just automatically make it easy for you. What I'll do sometimes when the Lord will wake me up is I'll go straight to wash my face with freezing cold water. And then I'll drink a cold glass of water to get things moving. And I'll be awake enough to take whatever focus I have, even if I'm tired, just to go and seek Him. Just to go and seek Him. Why? Because that unity with Him, that relationship, oh man, there's nothing like it. I'd rather be there with Him, just seeking Him, than preaching or whatever. I mean, it's just, there's nothing compares. There's something a whole lot better behind whatever we see in this reality. I wish I had a camera. I could show you some of your faces. You're just like, almost like disbelief. Listen, it's gonna be all too real. You're gonna get a new body. You're gonna get a new body. And not this high entropy machine here that you gotta work to just burn 10 calories. Praise God. God wants to fill you with His joy because you are His beloved. You got sin, you got hang-ups, whatever, okay. Bring it to Him. Surrender it to Him. But don't stay stuck at the thing. If the Lord has called you to something, step out and do it. Don't be arrogant saying, okay, God, I'll do it when I get rid of this. That's probably why you've got that hang-up, because you're not being obedient to what the Lord's calling you to. I guess this is the part where I close. Father, in the name of Yeshua, we just thank you for your goodness and your loving kindness. And Lord, there are times when you specifically call us to go and seek you and to be with you. And I just pray, God, Father, that you would just release those times of refreshing over your bride, over your people. Lord, those times of refreshing that reveal your joy. Yeshua, I thank you that when you were in the garden, waking up the disciples saying, hey, couldn't you tarry with me one more hour? Yes, it was about them praying, but it was about them praying with you. It was about the unity you would have with them in that garden of the oil press. That as we watch and pray for our beloved to be revealed from the heavens and the eastern sky, we're thankful, God, that you're going to reveal your work, your power, your presence that you've worked into our lives as we have walked with you here in this world. Thank you for giving hope to your people. Thank you for removing fear and insecurity. Yeshua, we bless you. Amen.
Hello.